So you want to learn how to create a B2B marketing strategy. Well, in this video, I'm going to explain exactly how you should build your B2B marketing strategy with the 5 foundations that matter the most. I will explain everything based on my experience because I've been in marketing for the past 8 years. I built 3 businesses. I've helped over 400 B2B businesses to create their strategy. And I also have a training where I teach marketers and founders how to create their B2B marketing strategy. All right, so now let's jump into this B2B marketing strategy masterclass. So the very first thing you need to have in mind when you are creating your marketing strategy is that it should be adapted to your business strategy. So your business strategy is basically your vision. So where do you want to be in the next year and in the next 5 years? In which market? What target audience are you helping? And also, what are your objectives with this business? When your business strategy is crystal clear, everything else is crystal clear. So you will be able to turn this business strategy into the marketing strategy. And the first core element of the B2B marketing strategy is the ideal customer profile. It's slightly different from your target audience because your target audience is a bit broader, whereas your ICP is a crystal clear laser targeting on who you want to work with. So it's ICP stands for ideal customer profile. So basically, it's who you would love to work with the most. If you already have clients, you can look at your past 10 clients that had the best performance, so who you were able to help the most. You also need to ask, do I really enjoy working with them? And do I feel that I'm really helping them? When you have this ICP, everything else is much clearer. So the main question is, who can you help the most with your solution? Now, if you don't have clients yet, and you want to build your portfolio of clients, you're going to ask yourself a series of questions in order to identify your ICP. First, you can have a look at demographics, of course, but it's not the most pertinent for B2B. Then you can have a look at firmographics. So basically, the elements that describe the company, the size of the company, the location of the company, the growth rate, the number of employees, and so on. You can have a look at LinkedIn Sales Navigator in order to do this. It will help you to define your ICP more clearly. Then you can have a look at a more specific level. You can check the job titles of your target audience. So here, I really recommend to go really deep in the targeting, because if you say we are targeting CEO, it's too broad. It might sound like a good idea because CEO are the decision makers, but the problem is that they are so busy and everyone is already targeting them. So if you can be more specific with your ICP, you can target CMOs or maybe CRO, Chief Revenue Officer, or maybe you can even go to lower level with marketing managers, for example, or even assistant to CTO or finance managers. You see, you need to define a job title that you really want to work with. Of course, it can be 1, 2, or 3 different job titles depending on who you are working with. Also, keep in mind that they will have a different job title depending on the size of the company. So if you are working with solopreneurs, well, they are alone, so that's easy. Then you have SMEs, then you have mid-market, up-market, and enterprise. So if you are looking to work with the decision makers, when you are at the enterprise level, most of the time you cannot work directly with the CMO. So you have to work with one of the marketing managers or one of the VP. It might not be the same for a mid-market company with not a lot of employees. So you have the firmographics and the job titles, but you also need to have in mind that your ICP doesn't end here. You need to have a look at what are their objective key results or KRs. Then you need to know what is their job to be done. So in their job offer, they agreed to do a job, and you need to know if what you are selling fits inside their scope of work. Because if you are talking about finance to a marketing manager, they will tell you this is not me that is taking care of that. So the CMO is not your ICP in this case. So when you answer all those questions, you know who is your ICP, and then you can adapt the rest of your marketing strategy. But keep in mind this very important thing. If your ICP is not clear, the rest of your marketing strategy will not be clear as well. For example, if you have 3 different ICPs that are very different, it will be very hard for you to write your messaging strategy because you will have to say 3 different things to 3 different people. So let's say you have to do a LinkedIn post. The question is, what should I say? Should I talk to ICP 1, 2, or 3? And which message should I use? You see, that's why you need to have a very specific ICP. And here it's all about making making a decision and forgetting about the fear of missing out and just focusing on one ICP. Now, the second core principle that I want to talk about for your B2B marketing strategy is the value proposition. So let's start from the problem of your target audience, of your ICP. If you are not solving a pure problem, your value proposition will have a low perceived value. Let me explain. So a pure problem stands for painful, urgent, recognized, and expensive. So painful is that on their day-to-day basis, they feel that they are not doing something correctly, so it's painful. It's also urgent. They feel they need to solve it urgently, really soon. Depending on the size of their company, it can be 1 week, 3 months, 6 months, because for a big company, 6 months is urgent, but for a very small company or a solopreneur, urgent is more like 1 week. Then recognize, it means that they know they have this problem. They are at least a bit educated about the problem and they know they need to fix it. And E, expensive, you've guessed it, it's costing them money, resources, and energy. So once you've identified this pure problem, you should of course adapt your product, solution, and offer to fix it, but also it has an impact on your marketing strategy and especially your value proposition. So your value proposition is simply how you're going to solve this problem and add value to their day-to-day and to their long-term business, and also how you're going to do it differently from the competition. I'm going to talk a bit later in this video about positioning and your USP, but keep in mind that it's really linked to your value proposition. So in order to write your value proposition, you need to have, of course, an ICP, you need to know their problem, and then you need to say exactly how you're going to help them fix this problem. So let's say you are selling a SaaS for financial decision. You could say, I help CFOs that struggle with scattered financial data by providing them a dashboard where they can centralize all the financial data in order to make decisions and talk directly with the CEO and the board. So you see here, I have my ICP, the CFO. I also have the problem, you know, when there are data everywhere, let's say in a company with 200 people and they have to check emails, check different Excels and so on. It's a very pure problem for them. And also I explain how I fix it with my product. And I target directly the CFO here because they are the owner of this problematic and they need to fix it. I'm not targeting the CEO here. So you can use the same template in order to write your value proposition. I help ICP who face problem by doing value proposition. This way you will have a value proposition statement, and based on this, everything else will be clear. Remember, if your ICP is not clear, it's impossible to write this value proposition statement. So get back to step 1 if you feel that everything is blurry right now. Now let's talk about core principle number 3. It's positioning and messaging. So it's 2 different concepts, but I put them together because positioning without messaging doesn't make any sense. You will understand why now. So first, you have to write a desired positioning statement. The question is very simple. How do you want to be perceived by your target audience and your ICP? You have your market with all the different competitors, and among this competition, how do you want your audience and your ICP to perceive you? What keywords do they have in mind when they think about you? What product, what feature, what specific differentiation they have in mind? So you need to write down this positioning statement, and of course it can be really long, but you can also make it short in order to have something you can remember all the time. And then when you have this desired positioning statement, you can write your messaging strategy, because your desired positioning is just something you have in your mind. But in order to make it real, you need to make sure that everyone in your market knows about what you're selling, what you're doing, and what is your vision. Okay, so basically you're going to write your messaging strategy with 3 different messages and 1 core message. So your core message can become the H1, so the headline of your homepage. And also you have 3 other sub messages that will help you to explain a bit more about this headline and about the core value proposition. So basically, imagine if you were in an elevator and you had 2 minutes to pitch your business, your startup, your offer to your ICP. What would you say exactly? What is first your headline? So what do you do and how you help them? What problem you solve? So go back to the pure problem in order to include it inside your messaging. And also what exactly is inside your solution and why it's different and why it's good. So basically your messaging strategy, it's here to convince them to start working with you. So with this messaging strategy, what you're going to do is to deploy all your messages across all the different channels, your website, your LinkedIn, your YouTube, your blog, your podcast, and so on. And what is important is that you have consistency with this messaging. Consistency first across channel. It needs to be the exact same message across all the different platforms. And second, consistency across time. Because if you change your messages every 2 weeks, people will not understand what you are doing and your positioning will be totally diluted. Because it's by reusing the same messages over and over that you forge clear, strong positioning. So that's why messaging and positioning are really linked together. Now let's talk about the principle number 4, which is your offer. So your offer, to put it really simply, is what happens exactly after the sale until the end of the delivery process. So first is the onboarding and the end is the outboarding. What are all the different steps that will happen in order to bring your ICP from their current limitation, which is a problem they have, to a new desired situation with a positive outcome. So your offer, first you're going to write what I call a playbook. So basically, if you are a marketing agency, for example, and you want to help SaaS to get more demos, you're going to write exactly how you're going to do this for them. What are all the steps that you will take? Okay. Then when you have all those different steps, you're going to zoom out a bit and explain what are the main patterns and the main roads inside this playbook. And this will create the milestones of your offer. So first we're going to do A in order to then do B and then do C. And because we will do ABC, you will be able to get D. And because you get D, you will have the desired outcome that you promise. And if you don't get it, we will do ABC until you get it for no additional charge. You see here, this is an offer, and I also added a guarantee in order to increase my sales closing rate. Now, of course, you need to attach to this offer a name. So this is called naming. You need to make sure that it looks good, it sounds good, and it sounds different than the competition. Second, you need to package it in a way with design, with copywriting, and so on that increase the perceived value. That's really the job of a copywriter and a marketer. And third, the price, obviously. So pricing should be based depending on different factors. I could do a whole video about pricing. You can tell me in the comments if this is interesting for you. But basically, you need to keep in mind that the price will also depend on the price of the pure problem. Let me give you an example. If you are solving a problem for the CFO, as I was explaining earlier, and this problem is costing them millions of dollars, if you're charging $20,000 per year, it's a good decision for them. So it's not really about the time that you will spend to build a dashboard for them. It's more about what pain you will take out from their day-to-day. Okay, so this is basically called value-based pricing. You have other types of pricing, for example, cost-based pricing or feature-based pricing. You also now have, with all the different AI tools, the pricing that is based on each request with margin that you put on top. So you have different pricing strategies, and you need to make sure that it also match your ICP. If you sell a 50,000 softwares to a solopreneur, obviously it won't work. For the core principle number 5, I'm going to talk about the pull versus push marketing. So when you have your marketing strategy in place with your ICP, your value proposition, your offer, and also your positioning and messaging, now you need to execute this strategy with different tactics. So you could use LinkedIn, you could use emails, etc. In order to organize this, I propose you to use the pull versus push marketing framework. So pull, it's simply that you're going to attract customers to you, and push is you're going to outreach to customer in order to get them inside your company. So it's good to have a different mix of pull and push. Why? Because if you only do pull, you don't have 100% control on your marketing. But if you're doing only push, you might be too aggressive, and so you might burn your brand, or even worse, don't create a brand at all. So let me give you different tactics with pull and push. So pull, my favorite tactics right now is LinkedIn content, YouTube content, and a newsletter. You can also have SEO, but keep in mind that you need to have a strategy to adapt your SEO to the LLM, so all the different AI tools, in order to make sure you appear in those LLMs. You can also have a podcast, and you see here the most important is to create content, have a content ecosystem with different channels, and make sure you have CTAs in all your content, so you send traffic to your landing pages or to your website. Now on the push side, so first you can do cold outbound, so basically send emails, but what is even better is to do warm outbound. So basically you're going to collect intent from your pull marketing tactics. Hey, this person visited our our pricing page or our LinkedIn profile, so we should contact them. And here you will use the warm outbound as a push tactic. Also, you can use this push tactic with social DMs, basically on LinkedIn or even on Instagram or Twitter, for example. So you're going to contact them directly in the social media rather than contacting them by email, because emails are a bit flooded right now. And of course, a very good push marketing tactic is paid ads. So with paid ads, you can do cold paid ads to people that don't know you. But in B2B, I really recommend to start from retargeting ads. So when someone visits your website, you will then retarget them thanks to a pixel that track their visit. You can retarget them on LinkedIn, Google, YouTube, and also on Meta, so with Instagram and Facebook. Here you make sure that they see your product or your offer multiple times, and remember that consistency is very important in your messaging, as I explained earlier. So with this pull versus push framework, you will be able to organize your marketing tactics. Make sure that you start from not too many tactics. Overall, you will try to do too many different things, and ultimately you will do nothing this way. So what I recommend is to start from LinkedIn content, a newsletter, and let's say social selling, so sending DMs. This way you have a good starter pack in order to close clients. All right, so those are the 5 foundations for your marketing strategy that you should use in order to create a roadmap that will help you to attract clients for your B2B business. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it and ask your question in the comments, so I will be able to help you in detail. You can also have a look at this free guide where I help you to set up the marketing foundations for your business.